Welcome, everybody, to Beyond Psychology. And today's show is to celebrate Mother's Day and the intuition that many mothers use. Serra and Joanne are pleased to introduce Joanne's mother, Serra's grandmother, Billie Sieg, who lives in California. Billie is a 94-year-old mother of four and a grandmother and great grandmother of many, that we are really excited just to ask a few questions about her experiences of being a mother. So welcome, Mom.
Thank you.
So, and one of the things I was thinking, we wanted to ask, maybe something you wished you knew then as a mother that you know now more as a wise woman.
A very important one, I think, is I wish I had told my children to be aware of the consequences of their decisions, because every decision you make has consequences, and you need to think about whether you want those consequences.
So good or bad?
Yes.
There's always a consequence, you're saying, to really any decision. And I would even add behaviors. Anything specifically that you're thinking of that you wished for us as your kids that for
No, I just think that would be everyday knowledge, to be aware of your decisions.
Yeah. I can certainly agree. And I felt like one of the things I did, Mel and Sarah could speak to this, that responsible behavior. And I think that's really what you're talking about, the consequences of your decisions, whether it's going to turn out to be responsible or not responsible. And that decision making really does affect your life. Yeah. All right.
I can see how when, I was younger, that awareness wasn't there. And starting, I guess I gathered it pretty early. I feel like that's something, Mom, that you did quite well. But I can see how that awareness as you're younger, how important that is, because it does shape the choices you make once you're thinking, oh, this is going to lead to that, and this is going to lead to that. So I think that's a really great one.
Yeah.
So, Grandma, what is your favorite part of being a mother?
I guess now it is interacting with my adult children as adult people, knowledgeable people.
Yeah, because it's a different experience, isn't it? Or a different relationship. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So what might be your favorite memory? If you had to pick one or two that
one
comes to mind.
Stuck in my mind, and I don't know whether you remember it or not. It would be interesting to know. But we were on one of our trailer trips, traveling around, and somehow
I think I know what you're going to say.
And we
the clams in the mud.
Mud, and I had you piggyback on. I don't even know how old you were. I think you were a teenager.
I was a teenager, but 15.
You were piggyback me, and it was hysterical. We just got to laughing so bad.
What I remember, clams come to mind for whatever reason. We're in Maine now, listeners. We were in a trailer, with a family, and we always went to campsites, and we did lots of things. I was barefooted, as I remember. And I think we were like in a clam patch or mussel shells and rocks and barnacles. And I couldn't walk. I couldn't get through it. So you had evidently had shoes on, and it was muddy. I would just remember the mud flats, we would call it, for people that understand what those mean, for clamming and getting clams. They would do it with a kind of like a fork, but it was sunk, it like sunk you in. So every step was really difficult. And then I couldn't walk. And then I'm getting on your back. You could hardly walk with my additional weight too. And it just ended up to be one of those giggle fests.
I'm glad you remember it because I couldn't imagine what we were up to.
That's the way I remember it. And it's interesting with memories, it's the emotional connection you feel to them that usually will make you remember it. So both of us had some kind of an emotional energy, the giggles. I would say it was just silly. The whole thing just felt very silly. Oh, that's really
one
sweet.
of my favorite memories, Grandma, with you. Remember the house where there was the pond, just like over the hill? And I would go down there and I would take a bucket and just spend hours collecting everything. Tadpoles. And each stage that they were in, it was so fascinating. I think I was staying with you for a week and just collecting everything that I could at that pond. And sometimes I would bring it back in my little bucket, and then I'd have to bring it back the next day. And I remember, I don't think you were quite as big of a fan of the friends that I brought back, but certainly that was a lot of fun at your house.
Yeah, that's my memory of you too. You, Serra, and animals of any form.
Yep.
Snakes. Anything that was creepy crawly, basically, seems like. And that was Georgetown, as I remember, Georgetown, Maine. I remember the mosquitoes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. That's why we eventually left. They were
Was it? I remember we wore beekeeping suits. They were that bad. So no wonder all these little creatures in the pond were just fed so well, because they could just eat on the mosquitoes. Yep. Oh, that's sweet. Well, I really appreciate you doing this. Any last thoughts, Mom, on anything that comes to mind just from what we've already just said?
Oh, me. Well, I'll tell you something that was significant to me, because I had my 4 children in the 1950s, all 4 of them. And that was the era when the automatic washer came into being. And
dryer?
Well, probably maybe the dryer too, but the washer. No longer tubs and wringers and things. And here I had my first baby. So that was really
listeners, can you believe this? I mean, this is the era that my mother and I grew up in. And so you may be hearing something you've never thought about before. Washer, what do they do? About these kinds of experiences. So thank you so much, Mom, for being with us today.
Well, hello and welcome back to Beyond Psychology with Joey and Serra. Today is our Mother's Day special, and we are discussing our favorite parts of being a mother. So, Joey, Mom, I have a couple questions for you. So how have you used your intuition as a mother?
Oh, I love that one. Because, with Beyond Psychology, that's a lot of what we're talking about, is how do we use our intuition or our inner knowing or trusting? And, I feel like as a mother, and all people have it, but as a mother, I really felt like I had to hone it to keep my kids alive. That's what I feel like, because it's almost like this little, I call it inner voice, you called it a inner guidance, but I kind of saw and visualize some things sometimes, and it's almost like, nah, you're not gonna, I don't believe that, really. And one of them is so present in my mind, that Sarah, you had just learned how to ride a bike without training wheels. So you probably 4 or 5, you were little when you took them off. And we were going to go for a ride as a family, probably our first bike ride as a family, on Long Island, which is an island off Portland, Maine. And I remember we were sitting in the yard because as I remember getting helmets on, I think if I remember right about helmets, and we were or getting ready or whatever. And I had this flash of this scene going down one of the hills to get down to go on this flat road. You had to go down. It wasn't a real steep hill, but it was a pretty decline. And then you had to turn right to go on this flat road. So I saw this whole scene of us going down this hill and you taking your feet off the pedals of the bike. And when you take the pedals off the bike, you just go with gravity and go down this hill. But I kind of like, okay, it wasn't some big thing, I'm like, so like maybe we shouldn't do this. I remember asking after that, are you sure, everybody? Sarah just learned how we're gonna go, are you sure? And you were like, I'm doing this.
Yeah, I was
Okay, when I
rambunctious.
you remember that too? I want to support her success. I want to support her being able to do these things. So we did it. So we got to that part of the hill, and I made sure I was in front, at least in the pack. I remember that part. And as we started going down, the whole scene started playing out. You took your feet off the pedals. And so you started going faster and faster. And not only was this hill to this road that you had to turn right on, it went down to the Long Island wharf and into the water with big, sharp rocks. And so as we passed that road, we were supposed to turn right on. I remember taking my bike and hitting yours, but you didn't fall down. So now we're going faster and faster down the hill to the water and the rocks and the wharf. And so I'm still kind of a little bit in front of you. I had to let you go in front of it, and I had to hit you really hard with my bike this time to knock you down. And I did. And it's like, I can't imagine what this scene looked like because it seemed like there was people around, as I remember, but it was frightening because you were going to go into the rocks. Because I remember there wasn't even water. It wasn't even high tide. There were rocks. So it did become, I felt like a life or death situation that my intuition, I feel like worked. What do you remember about that?
I don't remember that.
You don't?
No, I don't.
You don't remember any of it?
No, I don't remember any of it.
We have to ask Daniel tomorrow, your brother, about because they were in the back watching this. So I can't even imagine what this looked like. But I hit you once and you did not fall down. I mean, and we must have got all scraped up.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So you don't remember?
I don't remember it, and that's really strange to me. But I was a daredevil, and I was kind of a adrenaline junkie kid, and I wonder if it was just like, I was seeking all of those like really adventurous, crazy stuff. So yeah, I don't know if I didn't think it was that big of a deal because you would think it was etched in my memory, kind of like it is for you.
Oh, it was frightening. So, and there has been other exactly that kind of thing in my life that I used as a mother. So I'm saying all the mothers out there, use that little feeling in your gut that tells you something, believe it.
Yep. Yep. Oh, that's fun. That's fun. Okay. So what is your favorite part of being a mother?
I could not wait to have children. I mean, it was like this urge beyond an urge, like a pull. I could not wait. I waited till I was 22 to have child, which is pretty darn young. I'd gotten through, well, I had three credits left before I graduating from college, but I waited that long. I just could not wait to have children. And as I look back on it now, when I think about this, and as we're doing our show beyond psychology and using intuition and using your skills now as a mystic, I think that's why there was a bigger purpose and meaning for you to be born, and that you have a really big purpose here to share some things that aren't very, what we might call normal. And I think that was the urge to do it sooner than later. And I must say, if I could have never had to go to work, I would have stayed home and be a full time mom. It was just the biggest joy of my life. And I know it was one of my life purposes. So for me, it was just so, it was almost like bigger than me to have children and be a mother. And yes, it's hard. One of the hardest things to be a good parent ever, parents. So do not get discouraged. But I think there's a bigger purpose and meaning to this.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Well, thank you. That makes my heart very warm.
Good.
Okay, so what is one favorite memory that you would like to share?
Favorite memory was with your father. We wanted you to know where food came from. So we had geese, we had pigs, and we bought a baby. Well, he wasn't a steer. That was part of the process. He was just a little boy cow, not a cow. And we had him, and you could put a saddle on him and ride him. And he finally got to be so big, we had to put him on another island but he was part of the family. He was like a dog. And we loved Snowflake so much.
I have so many memories of being pulled behind him in like a fish tote.
Like a sled.
Yeah, it was like a sled behind him. And I remember being on the saddle, and I remember just wanting to be with him. He was just so sweet.
He was just
so sweet. Yeah.
Oh, we loved him. And I hate to tell everybody out there, we ate him. Just like every animal we had, because that was the people. I just felt it was important. We know where food came from, and that this isn't some magical thing that just appears in your freezer in a box. No, it comes from some animal or some farm that a farmer is doing a lot of work. And so I felt like that was the message.
Yeah. Received.
Well, all right, Sarah. So it's my turn to ask you about maybe what is your favorite part of being a mother of three boys?
So just to give a little bit of history here, I have three boys. When my oldest son was 18 months old, I had a set of identical twins. So I had three boys under the age of 18 months. It was very challenging,
say the least,
especially when they were little, because they were just busy, and lots going on. Currently, my oldest is 16 and the twins are 15. So I am still very much in being a mother, but my favorite part, is the connection I have with them. They are beautiful little souls, and just watching them grow into who they are and the connection that we have. And I'm very close with all of them. And, I have to say these teenage years have been actually some of my favorite, which I know is an odd thing to say, but they really just have started to come into their own personalities, but they're very much mama's boys in their own way. And just the connection and the deep love that we have for each other you can't have that with somebody else. It's just a different type of relationship and an understanding of who each other is, and really, really growing that. So I think that's probably my favorite part at this point. When they were little, it was super fun, but I don't know, right now it's really special. And maybe I'm having that, like seeing the empty nest coming. So I'm like trying to pull in, all of my
You know, you know what I see, and I'm going to connect this back to what my mom said about learning consequences, that was an important thing that she kind of wished she would have understood, because that's what I see. And I'm going to give a parenting skill here, or that's exact teaching responsible behavior. Because if you remember, as they were the twos and threes together, or threes and fours together, you were teaching them with the little stick, the popsicle sticks in the chart. When they did things right, they got stuff. And you were teaching them, you take away a stick as a consequence of that. And I believe personally, because that's what I found with parenting you guys, that when you do it at three or two or three or four, you have this wonderful time as teenagers. This is a recreation of that same independence, developing into their own self, but learning those consequences younger. You don't have to do it at 15 and 16. So I want to say you did really, Andy did really, really good parenting work when they were younger, to be able to have this kind of relationship with them as teens.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah, we really focus on the positive reinforcement and setting of boundaries, and really showing them what we want them to do and rewarding them for that, instead of it just being always this negative
Punishment for.
punishment. But
Yeah, but they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell me about your intuition. How have you used that? Because you are very intuitive. So I'm excited to hear about this one.
All have my gifts. And so they understand that they see the world differently than other people. And to be able to help guide them through that has been really amazing.
What do you
I
mean
do
by
have,
that? Can you clarify what more
yeah.
detail?
So they are able to, I know 2 out of 3 have seen ghost spirits before. They've had interactions with them. So they also have a knowingness of these other spirits around them. But then also just this intuition that we're talking about, they very much have that. Sometimes they recognize it and sometimes they don't. And then also they're able to connect with their guides, and I've taught them how to really move into the energetic world and use their mind in this other way, so they can walk forward knowing they have a support in the energetic world. And really, I talk about what I do openly at home, of course. So they choose their path in it and take as little or much as they want, but they are aware of their gifts and how to use them in this world, and understand that most people, don't use them in this way, or are not aware yet. And so it's nice to watch that. But as an intuition, definitely I've had knowingness before things happened. I've had kind of a twinge of, hey, I should go check on things before things turned in different ways. So but when they were little, I learned Reiki. That's kind of where I started. And so when they had bumps and bruises and were very upset that they couldn't communicate it, I used energy to calm and to help kind of support their little bodies, because little children are, they can't always express how they're feeling. And for me to kind of be able to work with them in this energetic way and to understand them, but then also soothe them, and just kind of car rides were horrible when they were little. I mean,
they threw up
everywhere. Every 20 minutes, the twins just puked. And so, and then it's like this whole crying scene, and just to be able to calm the situation and
calm the energy in the car itself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Just to calm everything, because I'm on a freeway with 3 kids. I and they're throwing up all over themselves. It's just like,
not all over the car though, because I remember you had yogurt buckets with covers and they knew what to do.
Plastic yogurt containers, and Yeah, but that was after they learned how to use that. It took a while to get there. So, the beginning. So just to bring the energy into more of a calm place in those scenarios, that definitely is something how I used energy work. And I really saw the effect that it had on the kids and what they could do. So
Kind of immediate effects that
yeah,
using your energy or Reiki energy of love, which I see Reiki as, is just energy of love that calms the environment. I think
yeah,
I would like you to clear what guides are, because a lot of our listeners may not be familiar with that word. What does it mean that you said your kids were in touch with their guides?
sure. Guides come in a lot of different ways, but in the energetic world or the spirit world, we all have support teams that come with us here as being human, being a physical form. And a lot of people call them like guardian angels. That would be one way
Yeah.
that people may be familiar with them. But we have a whole team of them that are here more than just protection and guidance. And so we have this whole group of support in the energetic world, and sometimes they're to teach us, to protect us, to whatever we're meant to be doing. But I use that as kind of a blanket term, guides, but they're
Mm.
energetic beings who you can't see, but they're there with you walking this life. And most people
To
know them
help.
to help guide and to
Yeah.
help us navigate this whole world. We have a whole lot of helpers and support teams, and they're always there just waiting for us to ask for them to come to us, because they can't help you unless you ask them, because they're
Yes.
respecting your free will. And until you ask, they just kind of go with you.
Hmm. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed this conversation to get to know us a little bit better. And we want to send love out to all the mothers in the land and to each other. Thank you, Sarah. I love you.
Thank you. Love you, Mom.